Uniontown, T-Town, touchdown, Alabama, let's get it.
The process, no one can stop this. Hottest show in the streets, I bet you can't top this. Recruiting news and interviews, just sit back and watch this.
Recruiting news and interviews, just sit back and watch this.
The process.
How's it going, everyone? Welcome into a new week of The Process, Crimson Tide Recruiting. I am your host, Justin Smith, the scouting and recruiting analyst for Touchdown Alabama. Thank you guys so much for joining me today on our YouTube channel. Be sure to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button as well. Subscribers, hit that notification bell, be notified when we drop content on our YouTube page. I'm here each week to break down the latest in Crimson Tide football recruiting news. So please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button for me as well. On this episode, I do want to recap the Crimson Tide's recruiting weekend as they were able to host the Texas A&M Aggies and defeat them, of course, but also host a long list of recruits, starting with 5-star defensive end Keon Keely. No need to waste any more time. Let's dive right into things. Keely, 5-star defensive end out of Berkeley Prep High School in Tampa, Florida, currently has Alabama among the schools that he's currently considering after decommitting from the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Had an opportunity to take his official visit to Alabama over the weekend. That official visit was filled with big moments, including catching up with the Crimson Tide star outside linebacker Will Anderson and his family. Not only did Will Anderson get an opportunity to catch up with Keely after the game, before the game, his family spent some time around the 5-star defensive end, and you better be sure that they were definitely trying to recruit him to Alabama, especially telling them about their experience as far as Will Anderson experience, just based on their similar skill sets and similar playing style that both of them play with in terms of their size and the fact that both of them are expected to be edge rushers at the next level. But those are the pictures that we are showing you now. You see him alongside Will Anderson's dad. That first picture was Keon Keely alongside Will Anderson's aunt. So he had an opportunity to spend some time around them and spend some time around Will Anderson as well as catch up with a future NFL Hall of Famer and Larry Fitzgerald, the NFL wide receiver, because he's not officially retired, but the NFL wide receiver Larry Fitzgerald had an opportunity to catch up with Keely before the game. We did capture that video for you guys as we were on the sideline, and Fitzgerald gave Keely some advice I'm pretty sure he has heard a lot throughout this recruitment process, and that is to make the best decision for you. So the Crimson Tide, I said heading into this official visit that I felt that they were still in a good position. I said you can make an argument that they still were the leader. Of course, I don't feel that their lead is as big as it was a couple of weeks ago when he first decommitted from Notre Dame. I think it was like a couple of months ago now. It was in August. I think their lead was a little bit bigger then because we were unsure what other teams were definitely going to be involved in this recruitment. But with them setting official visits to other programs soon after he decommitted, like Florida, like Ohio State, you knew that the Gators and the Buckeyes were a threat to the Crimson Tide. I still feel Ohio State is still a threat, but I feel the Tide is still in a good position. I think they have improved their position after this official visit, but I feel this one could go down to the wire. But if I had to make a prediction today, my prediction will still be the Crimson Tide after this official visit. He's expected to announce not a decision, but expected to announce a update on this recruitment a little bit later tonight. We will have that update on our site as soon as he releases that update. So stay tuned to touchdownalabama.com in our YouTube page. If you are a subscriber, be sure to hit the notification bell. If you're not, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you can stay updated. Also caught up with Jaren Hamilton, the 2023 4-star wide receiver out of Buckholz High School in Gainesville, Florida. Of course, he has a top 7. Plans to officially visit Alabama when the Crimson Tide take on the Auburn Tigers, but he got back to Tuscaloosa over the weekend. He said he used that visit to get more familiar with Nick Saban, had an opportunity to spend some time around him and also spend some time around the Crimson Tide's wide receivers coach, Coleman Wiggins. Also connected with some Alabama commits. A guy who wasn't at the game on Saturday who he has connected with in the past is Jalen Hill, the Crimson Tide's latest wide receiver commit. So he's connecting with a couple of Alabama commits. Seems to have a good relationship with Jalen Hill. Describes him as a funny guy. So now that Hill is on board, he looks as if he's going to be recruiting for the Tide a little bit as they try to possibly add another wide receiver in this 2023 recruiting class. Like I said, that official visit to Alabama when the Crimson Tide take on the Auburn Tigers in the Iron Bowl is still on for Jaren Hamilton. I think the Tide is still in a very, very solid position with the speedy wide receiver out of Gainesville, Florida. The Crimson Tide did extend a couple of new offers recently, including an offer to a new 2023 defensive back and Tyler Scott out of Georgia. I think I've talked about this a couple of times on the process. The Crimson Tide are not done evaluating and looking at guys. You have a breakout senior season in your senior film. Looks pretty good. Alabama may take another look and they may offer you. They offered Tyler Scott recently offered 4-star linebacker Arian Carter as well. But Scott is one of those guys who they are going to be looking at moving forward. I know a lot of recruiting sites have him listed as a safety, but I like him as a defensive back, of course, but I like him as a cornerback. Just watching his film, you see the way that he handles coverage and bump and run coverage, ball skills you guys are going to see on this play right here. Comes downhill. I think it was a bit of a tip pass, maybe wasn't the best camera angle, but you see him catch the interception and take it back to the house, showing off those ball skills. And I really like the fact that he can jam guys at the line of scrimmage. Good length, about 6'2". So I really like this guy as a cornerback, in my opinion. I really like his anticipation, as you guys are able to see on that play, coming downhill to make some tackles in open space. I love cornerbacks and defensive backs in general who are able to make tackles in open space. See him bullying guys at the line of scrimmage and bump and run coverage. So there's a lot to like about Tyler Scott. You definitely can see why Alabama is going to be looking at him moving forward. He's a 2023 defensive back to know outside of 2 months here away from the early signing period in December. Of course, as the Crimson Tide continue to extend new offers once again before we leave him, you see him just continue to jam guys at the line of scrimmage, be physical right off the snap of the football. The Crimson Tide also offered a 2025 defensive lineman in Jordan Crawford out of Parker High School in Birmingham, Alabama. I talk about this a lot in the process as well. The state of Alabama is going to continue to be loaded for the next couple of years and for the foreseeable future. Just taking a look at a 2025 class, Alabama pick up a wide receiver in Ryan Williams on Saturday, who committed during the Crimson Tide's matchup against Texas A&M, who could very well be a 5-star recruit in the future. But the Crimson Tide are definitely going to continue to try to recruit the state of Alabama. Jordan Crawford is going to be one of those guys to watch. At 6'3" and approximately 290 pounds, has played the game of football with a lot of physicality and power during his sophomore season for Parker High School, being very disruptive along that defensive front, along with the Crimson Tide's 2024 4-star DL target Jeremiah Beeman. So Jordan Crawford is a guy to just keep in the back of your mind at the moment, because he is a 2025 guy. Long way to go in this recruitment, but it looks as if he's going to be one of the top defensive linemen in the 2025 recruiting class coming out of Parker High School in Birmingham. Speaking of in-state recruits to the Crimson Tide are going after, Sterling Dixon, a 4-star linebacker out of Mobile Christian School, has set a commitment date. He told me earlier today he plans to announce a commitment on December 1st. Will most likely choose between some SEC schools if I had to make a prediction on today, but a couple of schools who are standing out in this recruitment are Alabama, of course, LSU, and Auburn. He said LSU is the school who is in contact with them the most. Actually has a good relationship with their coaching staff, showing him that they really want him. Actually took a visit to LSU over the weekend, but Alabama is in contact with them almost every day as well. They like him as an inside linebacker at about 6'3". He's a guy who could be an inside linebacker playing standing up, similar to Deontay Lawson, who was his former teammate at Mobile Christian School. He can also be an edge rusher with the length that he possesses and the way that he's able to get after the quarterback in terms of being an edge rusher. So he has some versatility to his game, but a Tide like him at inside linebacker, continuing to recruit him and contact with them almost every day. Has a great relationship with the Crimson Tide's inside linebackers coach and defensive coordinator Pete Golding and the Crimson Tide's defensive line coach Freddie Roach. So Sterling Dixon has that commitment date locked in for December 1st. We're going to stick with in-state guys here for the next couple of guys we're going to talk about, actually just painting that picture that the state of Alabama is going to continue to be loaded. But the next guy I want to talk about is Alvin Henderson, a 2025 running back who made his way back to Tuscaloosa over the weekend. And what a massive game he had last week. If I told you this guy's stats from last week, you may think that I'm lying to you, but he is a guy who rushed for 412 yards and 6 touchdowns last Thursday. He made his way to Tuscaloosa over the weekend. He's speedy defensive back out of Elba High School. And he had some great things to say about his visit to Alabama, specifically talking about the atmosphere inside Bryant-Denny Stadium for his most highly anticipated matchup against Texas A&M. These are quotes that I'm going to read from Henderson here. From the time I arrived on campus, I was fired up along with the coaches. It was so lit inside the stadium. It was literally rocking 30 minutes before the game. He also went on to say Alabama is just everything. The coaches were really just explaining to me how they love me and they wanted me to be up there every game. So one day I will hopefully be playing for them. I literally love college football game days, especially Alabama. It is just electrifying. So yeah, a lot of great things to say about the Crimson Tide. He loves to love that they are showing him at this particular point in this recruitment. Similar to Crawford, he's a 2025 guy. Long way to go in this recruitment. Got to keep it in the back of your mind. The Crimson Tide are recruiting as the state of Alabama continues to crank out more and more talent. Sticking with the Henderson name and sticking with the state of Alabama, the next guy I want to talk about is Keon Henderson. If you did not check out our interview with him, be sure to check that out on our YouTube. Had an opportunity to catch him in action on Friday night. Looked impressive, continues to grow, continues to fill out his frame as he's about, I think, 6'4", 260 pounds right now. So his frame is continuing to grow. Plays with a lot of power, great in space, continuing to grow in terms of his lateral movement. Had a decent game on Friday, but I had an opportunity to catch up with him after that game. Said he likes what he's hearing from Alabama's coaches. They are in constant contact with them. His relationship is definitely growing. Got an opportunity to get back to Tuscaloosa over the weekend as well. And after that visit, he changed his Twitter profile picture to him and Nick Saban. He has a commitment day locked in for November 6th to honor his late grandfather who introduced him to the game of football, and his late grandfather was an Alabama fan. So that is something to keep in mind as well. He has that commitment day locked in for November 6th. Another 2024 guy I want to talk about today is 5-star athlete KJ Bolden, who also took an unofficial visit to Alabama over the weekend. Had a lot of good things to say about the Tide as well. Told me that Alabama is one of his favorite places to visit. This guy's arguably the top safety prospect in the 2024 recruiting class. Similar to the Crimson Tide's freshman wide receiver Isaiah Bond, he has an opportunity to play wide receiver or defensive back at the next level, just based on how explosive and how fast he is. I think he's projects to be a really good safety at the next level. Told me that it's a position he feels Nick Saban wants him to play. Also talked about the Crimson Tide's defensive performance against Texas A&M, which they had to lean on our defense to pull out that win. He said he really likes the way that they play. They're fast, physical. They're going to play you fast and physical every play. So he really likes the Crimson Tide's defense style of play. Has a great relationship with Harmon Wiggins and the Crimson Tide safeties coach and Georgia area recruiter Charles Kelly. So KJ Bolden looks to be one of the guys who the Crimson Tide are in a good position with when you take a look at the future in terms of the 2024 recruiting class. But I also want to throw in some visit picks here over the weekend. The Crimson Tide, like I said, hosted a long list of recruits, and a lot of those guys had a lot of good things to say about the Crimson Tides and the Texas A&M Aggies atmosphere for that highly anticipated matchup. Just read some of the things that they were able to tell me. It was wild, crazy, and lots of fun. That came from 4-star 2024 defensive end King Joseph Edwards out of Bruford High School. The game day experience was unreal. 5-star defensive back in the 2024 class in Ellis Robinson. So Bryant-Denny Stadium was rocking. You see Alabama 4-star offensive lineman commit Marquez McElderry. It was loud and it was so live. So the atmosphere played a role in the Crimson Tide defeating the Texas A&M Aggies, of course, but also played a role in the Crimson Tide recruiting guys that seemed to go over really well with recruits having that game go all the way down to the last play. And there's nothing like Bryant-Denny Stadium when the game comes down to one play, and after that play is over, the Crimson Tide are victorious. The stadium goes wild. I'm pretty sure those recruits enjoyed that moment on Saturday night. Also want to bring up a picture of the Alabama commits. As you guys can see, the Crimson Tide had most of their 2023 commits in Tuscaloosa, along with some 2025 guys. I want to point out some guys: Richard Young, Hunter Osborne, Brayson Herbert, Jaleel Hurley, Tony Mitchell, Caleb Downs, Jordan Renard, Marquez McElderry, Miles McVay, Justice Haynes, Dylan Lonergan, Wilkin Formby, Eli Holstein, Cole Adams. Even had some 2024 guys like Perry Thompson, Martavius Collins, and also Jalen Mbakwe, along with Ty Lockwood, who's a 4-star tight end. So Crimson Tide commits an opportunity to connect in person for the first time this season, because this was the first time definitely that they had that amount of commits on campus at one time. And you better be sure that they were recruiting guys like Keon Keely, because after the game they was tweeting to him again. They have spoken highly of Keely, talked about how they are continuing to recruit him. So you better be sure that all of those guys were in Keely's ear during that particular visit. On the last thing I want to talk about On today's episode, I do want to bring your attention to a couple of Tennessee versus Alabama recruiting battles. Most of those battles happened earlier in this 2023 cycle. I know the Crimson Tide once had their eyes on the Tennessee Vols five-star quarterback commit Nico Iamaleava. They also had their eyes on a couple of other guys who committed to Tennessee, and Tennessee likewise had their eyes on a couple of guys who committed to the Crimson Tide, like Hunter Osborne. But as far as the future is concerned, both schools are going to go after a Tennessee product and four-star linebacker Jaren Carter, who did take an unofficial visit to Alabama over the weekend, but the Volunteers are trying to get heavily involved in this recruitment. I think it's, in terms of Alabama versus Tennessee on the recruiting trail moving forward, Jaren Carter is the guy to know, is the guy to watch. I actually plan on going to see him in person here in a couple of weeks, see what he brings to the table out of Tennessee. From watching his film, which is the film why his recruitment has blasted off in schools like Ohio State, Alabama, Tennessee, and others going after you. When you have Ohio State and Alabama coming after you late, really says something, really speaks volume. But you see the speed that he possesses on both sides of the football. Like I said, Alabama seems to be in a really strong position with him after offering him, especially by getting him back on campus over the weekend, a weekend where they had all of those commits on campus. Also a weekend where the stadium was rocking, and a weekend where he could have visited any of those other schools that he recently got offers from. Plans to be back in Tuscaloosa later in the season for an official visit, so the Tide will get him on campus 3 times most likely before he makes a final decision. Still verbally committed to the Memphis Tigers at the moment though. But that is what I want to talk about in this episode of The Process. Recap the Crimson Tide's recruiting weekend as they were able to get that larger amount of recruits on campus. As always, be sure to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button as well. Subscribers, hit the notification bell, be notified when we drop content on our YouTube page. Then head over to touchdowналabama.com. Be sure to pick up your subscription to our website. Be sure to pick up that subscription, because with that subscription, you will be able to read all of our subscriber-only articles, read our in-depth scouting portion of each Tide commit in each recruiting class as well. And then go to the Google Play Store if you have an Android device to download the Touchdown Alabama app. If you have an Apple device, be sure to download the app in the Apple App Store. As always, I am Justin Smith, the scouting and recruiting analyst for Touchdown Alabama.
Process.